So by now you probably have downloaded or written down all the key words from site translation number 1. So we're going to look at some terms that are on this site, but then I'm going to be lecturing on other terms as well. So it's not just only these terms, okay? So what I'll do is I'll have this available so that I can actually take notes. The first thing that we see here is lease agreement. In Spanish is contrato de arrendamiento. No es acuerdo. Oops, sorry, let me just move this back here, there. So no es acuerdo, es contrato de arrendamiento. As a matter of fact, in real estate, in anything that has to do with real estate, okay, which in Spanish is bienes inmuebles, in real estate, the word agreement always transfers as contrato, no acuerdo. Some of you may ask, okay, so how do I say, for example, rental agreement, which is different? Ahí sí es contrato de alquiler. And the difference is that in a lease agreement is for a period of time, 2 years, 1 year, whereas a rental agreement is usually from 1 month to the next. Some of you may wonder, well, can I use, for example, for the word rent, can I use renta? No, in this case, it's always alquiler. So why? Why is it not renta? Because renta and alquiler, see, this happens a lot in civil matters in Spanish. There are always two parties, right? In this case, the landlord and the tenant. And from the point of view of the landlord, when the landlord gives you, let's say you're the tenant, when the landlord gives you the property to live in that property, the landlord is receiving an amount of money. That's the rent. So for the landlord, that money es una renta. Porque en español, renta quiere decir un ingreso. But it's certainly not for you who's paying it. It's quite the opposite. So for you, who's paying is un alquiler. Because you're really paying to have possession of a property for a period of time, in this case, 1 month. Or in the case of a lease agreement, maybe 2 years, I don't know. So what happens in a case like this is that you have one term for the one receiving the money and one term for the one paying the money. And in this case, the one receiving can certainly use rentar, and the one paying has to use alquilar. So that's why you can be walking in a street in some countries in Latin America, particularly Mexico, and you can see signs that says se renta, because who put the sign there? The owner. So for the owner, it will be una renta. So the question is, in law, all these contracts, all these agreements are looked at from the point of view of the one that actually gives the money. So in this case is the tenant. And for the tenant, the rent is not una renta. On the contrary, it's un alquiler. So that's why you should always use for rent, alquiler. So rental agreement, contrato de alquiler, no contrato de renta. Now, the problem in the United States is that people use renta a lot, and that somehow has been contaminated into even Mexico, particularly northern states. And because in English is rent, and therefore in Spanish, renta. But that's not correct from the point of view of the legal definition of the term. So this lease agreement entered on. To enter into, or to enter on, if it's a date, is celebrado. Or celebrar, I should say, because it's in the infinitive form. Celebrar. It's very common to say, este contrato de alquiler se celebra tal día. Este contrato de arrendamiento se celebra tal día. O se celebró tal día. We're going to enter into an agreement. Vamos a celebrar un contrato. And it is not in any way or manner, it is not entrar, or any of that stuff. And I know celebrar means to celebrate, but not in the legal setting. So you got to be careful with that term. Then we have a date. Make sure that you change the day and the month. The order is different. Between Mary Logan, hereinafter. That hereinafter is used a lot. It's a typical term in English. De aquí en adelante, o de aquí en más. So hereinafter referred to as the lessor. De aquí en adelante, conocida como o referida como el lessor, es arrendador. The one who's paying to get that property. Lessee es arrendatario. So the lessor, in this case, is arrendador, and the lessee is arrendatario. And that's because they use these terms because this is a lease agreement. If this were a rental agreement, you will use landlord, tenant, dueño, inquilino. That's for a rental agreement. So if you're talking about a lease agreement, then it's certainly going to be, you're going to have the parties involved will be known as lessor and lessee. If you're talking about a rental agreement, the parties involved will be the landlord and the tenant. So the very first paragraph, then, now that we know those terms, means, or transfers into Spanish, es este contrato de arrendamiento celebrado el 10 de mayo de 2011, o este contrato de arrendamiento se celebró el 10 de mayo de 2019, entre Mary Logan, de aquí en adelante conocida como la arrendadora, y Mario Samuel Rodríguez, de aquí en adelante conocido como el arrendatario. So lots of new terms here. They're all civil terms. Now we look at paragraph number 2, and it says, witness that in consideration. So it's kind of an expression, right? And it says, witness that. Okay. En testimonio de lo cual, that's the expression, witness that. In consideration of the rental below specified, the lessor agrees to lease the following. In consideration of the rental below specified. En consideración del alquiler mencionado, especificado a continuación. That below means a continuación. And of the covenant hereinafter stipulated. The word covenant means various things. It could be pacto, which is not in this case, or convenio, which is the term that we're going to use in this term. In all terms that deal with lease agreements. So, and of the covenant hereinafter stipulated, que de aquí en adelante se acuerda, remember, to stipulate es acordar. The lessor agrees to lease the following described premises. El arrendador está de acuerdo en arrendar. To lease es arrendar, right? Arrendar. So, el arrendador está de acuerdo en arrendar la siguiente, and then describe premises. Premises is in real estate always means what you're going to lease. In this case, is la vivienda. Okay, so premises, vivienda. So it says, arrendar la siguiente vivienda que ha descrito, ubicada en la calle Main número 100, al norte número 123, Los Ángeles, legally described as to have and to hold the demise premises onto the lease. Legally described, la cual se describe legalmente, right? That's not a problem. As to have and to hold, la cual se describe legalmente como la poseedora y la que tiene tenencia. To have and to hold. Es decir, la que posee y la que tiene tenencia. Poseer quiere decir that you have something. Tener tenencia means that you have something and you also have the right to use it. Si yo tengo tenencia de drogas, it means I have drugs, but I also use them. Si tengo posesión de drogas, all it means is that I have drugs. In this case, it refers to a property, right? Onto the lease, ¿ok? En el lessee, onto the lessee. Entonces es la cual se describe legalmente como la que tiene posesión y la que tiene tenencia de demise premises unto the lease. Quiere decir, la vivienda alquilada al arrendatario. Demise premise unto the lessee, not lease. Viviendas o vivienda alquilada al arrendatario. His successor, now, when you say his successor, so sus herederos is the best option. And assigns. So successors son herederos in this case. Write it here. And assigns. Okay, assign is an interesting term. People say, well, could it be personas asignadas? No. So what does it mean when they say his assigns? What exactly does it refer to? What does it mean when you assign something? Son los cesionarios. Son a los cuales se les cede un derecho. So assign always means ceder. Okay, cesionarios. Commencing on this and ending on this. So that is a very difficult line. Let's see if there is any question. Is it okay stipulado for stipulate? It's okay, but acordado is better. But yes, you can use it. So now when we have this, that based on the material that we have already discussed here, right? We will say en testimonio, let me just go to the end. En testimonio de lo cual y en consideración del alquiler especificado a continuación y del convenio acordado de aquí en adelante, el arrendador está de acuerdo en arrendar la vivienda que se describe a continuación, ubicada en la calle Main al norte número 123, Los Ángeles, California, la cual legalmente se describe como, ¿a quién? Legalmente se describe como la que tiene posesión y tenencia de la vivienda alquilada al arrendatario, a sus herederos y cesionarios por el plazo de 3 años, comenzando el 15 de mayo de 2019 y terminando el 14 de mayo de 2022. So let me do the 2 paragraphs together again now. Okay. Let me just use this. All right. So let's do the 2 paragraphs. Este contrato de arrendamiento celebrado el 10 de mayo de 2019 entre Mary Logan, de aquí en adelante conocida como la arrendadora, y Mario Samuel Rodríguez, de aquí en adelante conocido como el arrendatario. En testimonio de lo cual y en consideración del alquiler especificado a continuación y del convenio acordado de aquí en más, el arrendador está de acuerdo en arrendar la siguiente vivienda que se describe a continuación, ubicada en la calle Main al norte número 123, Los Ángeles, California, y a quien legalmente se le describe como tener la posesión y la tenencia de las viviendas alquiladas al arrendatario, sus herederos y cesionarios por el plazo de 3 años, comenzando el 15 de mayo de 2019 y terminando el 14 de mayo de 2022. Okay? You're going to have a chance to do this, okay, on your own, so make sure you take notes. Then you come and you see that thing that says whereas clause, okay? So this is a typical one. In Spanish, it means los considerando. Considerandos. See, the word whereas means considerando qué. So where are clauses? Los considerandos. That's the heading. That's it. And then it kind of repeats most of the terms that we have seen. De lessee, el arrendatario, may not assign, no puede ceder this lease, este arrendamiento, to any parties, a ninguna parte, without the written consent of the lessor. A ninguna parte sin el consentimiento por escrito del arrendador. 2. El arrendador por este medio, hereby means por este medio. I think you should know this one. Probably do, but just in case. El arrendador por este medio está de acuerdo en mantener toda la porción exterior de la vivienda en buen estado y buen mantenimiento. Good repair quiere decir buen estado y mantenimiento. Es a typical line. 3. El arrendador está de acuerdo y entiende que el arrendatario es el albacea, executor. Albacea, and you can, if you have time, you can say testamentario. What it really means is that somebody died and this person is the one who's executing the deceased's will. In Spanish, we call that albacea, albacea testamentario. Of the Pereira's state. In this case, state, you can use many options. You can say herencia. You can say caudal hereditario. So what it says there is 3. El arrendador está de acuerdo y entiende que el arrendatario es el albacea testamentario de la herencia de Pereira. Como consecuencia de esto, el arrendatario también se le puede también conocer como el albacea de la herencia de Pereira. 4. El arrendatario por este medio está de acuerdo en renunciar y ceder. Renunciar la posesión y ceder dicha vivienda al final del plazo mencionado anteriormente. So to quit es renunciar o ceder, you can use. Renunciar y ceder is typically the expression. To quit and deliver up. It comes from to quit possession, de ahí renunciar a la posesión. And to deliver up is to give it to another person. Y ceder. So you can say renunciar, if you want, you can renunciar a la posesión y ceder el bien inmueble, whatever it is. In this case, es dicha vivienda. So let's do the four items there and the whereas clauses. Los considerandos. El arrendatario no puede ceder este arrendamiento a ninguna de las partes sin el consentimiento por escrito del arrendador. 2. El arrendador por este medio está de acuerdo en mantener la porción externa, toda la porción externa de la vivienda en buen estado y en buen mantenimiento. 3. El arrendador está de acuerdo y entiende que el arrendatario es el albacea de la herencia de Pereira. Como consecuencia de ello, el arrendatario puede también ser conocido como el albacea de la herencia de Pereira. 4. El arrendatario por este medio está de acuerdo en renunciar y ceder la posesión de dicha vivienda al final del plazo mencionado anteriormente. Now, the next two paragraphs. As long as the lessee performs all of the covenants, as long as es siempre y cuando, and this verb to perform, anytime it's in real estate, in any agreement or in contract law, es cumplir. So when it says, as long as the lessee performs all of the covenants, which we saw already could be pacto o convenio, in that case it was convenio. When you talk about performing covenants, like in this case, son cláusulas contractuales. And that is true whenever it's to perform is right before. So to perform and then covenants, then it is always cláusulas contractuales. So, siempre y cuando el arrendatario cumpla con todas las cláusulas contractuales y las condiciones de este arrendamiento y cumpla con las reglas y regulaciones, el arrendatario tendrá una quieta y pacífica posesión. Peaceful and quiet enjoyment. En español es quieta primero, quieta y pacífica posesión, no es pacífica y quieta. What it means is that he can keep possession of it without any difficulties, provided that he doesn't make any noise, he doesn't create any problems and stuff like that. El arrendatario tendrá una quieta y pacífica posesión de la vivienda alquilada por el plazo indicado en este contrato de arrendamiento. So that paragraph right before the one before last, siempre y cuando el arrendatario cumpla con todas las cláusulas contractuales y condiciones de este arrendamiento y cumpla con las reglas y regulaciones, el arrendatario tendrá una quieta y pacífica posesión de la vivienda alquilada por el plazo indicado en este contrato de arrendamiento. And the last one says, whereas the lessee and lessor, considerando que. So whenever you see whereas, particularly at the beginning of the sentence, it means considerando que. So it says, whereas the lessee and lessor, considerando que el arrendatario y el arrendador agree to perform, están de acuerdo en cumplir this lease agreement, este contrato de arrendamiento, this agreement is hereby ratified by both parties. Este contrato queda por este medio ratificado por ambas partes. So that's pretty much I did the site for you. But what I want you to do, after I did the site, I want you to do it yourself. I'm going to give you time to do it, like 3-4 minutes. Because one thing that you're going to experience when you try to do it is that you're going to get very confused with lessor, lessee, lease, all that stuff. I want you to feel that, because I don't want you to feel it the day you take the exam. I want you to feel it right now so that you know where... Sorry, I've been talking since 8 o'clock. So that you know exactly where the problems are going to be in the exam and what you need to review. So let me just ask you, please, now that you have everything, you can use your notes, but I want you to deliver this into Spanish. I'll give you 4 minutes to do so, starting now, please.